It's 7 o'clock and August 22nd. This is a planning board special meeting. Will everyone please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our upcoming meeting dates are September 13th, 2022 and October 11th, 2022. And as we'll discuss in a little bit, we will be having a special public hearing with the town board on September 22nd, 2022. We don't have any minutes from prior meetings to approve tonight, but we will do the roll call, starting with John.
John Pappy.
Craig Arco.
Lori G.
John Eichman.
Ed Miyoshi.
Richard Campbell. Okay, thank you very much. The item on our agenda for tonight is Hudson Valley Logistics Center. Mr. O'Rourke.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Richard O'Rourke. I'm with the law firm of Keenan Bean here on behalf of the applicant. And the Hudson Valley Logistics Center, as you are well familiar with, is the site of what was to be the Sports Dome. And we're fortunate enough that to be entering into a contract to bring this project to fruition, just as we did with the warehouse behind it, and transform a moribund site into something that's a good tax rateable and an economic driver for the town of East Fishkill. Here this evening with us from Blue Water is John DeCola and Ryan Kelly. And we have from our engineering consultant, Richard Morrow and Jed Sabia. And what we would like to do is run through a presentation to familiarize you with what we're proposing and obviously answer whatever questions we may have, you may have for us. And hopefully we can answer them fully and we can move this project along. So with that, what I'd like to do is turn it over to Ryan Kelly.
Thank you, Rick, and thank you all for coming out today. So I'll pull up just an aerial here for anyone not familiar with the location. But my name is Ryan Kelly with Blue Water Property Group. We have one of our principals here, John DeCola, as well. And I hope we look relatively familiar to you guys. We were here in October of 2020 to present the Amazon project, which from our perspective was a very productive, collaborative experience. We hope that you all felt the same. So that project we're particularly excited about because it gave us an opportunity to show that Blue Water will deliver what we say we're going to deliver. So the warehouse was delivered on time with all of the design specifications that were outlined up front. And in addition to that, we had the opportunity to take the previously private Auditorium Drive, reconstruct it to the town standards, and deliver a basically new road in Patriot Way. So with that experience at Amazon, that put us in a great position to be the natural purchaser for the Sports Dome site. We were very familiar with all the advantages of the location right off of I-84 and being able to take advantage of all of the infrastructure that had been in there since it was built in the 1980s. And with this project, we wanted to take the same approach and work with the town in lockstep from the very beginning. So since February, I've been here probably 5 times in person with a million other phone calls to various members of the town to make sure we fully understood what the town wanted to see and pay particular attention to any potential sensitivities or concerns that the town was going to have so that we were able to mitigate them and design to them up front. So whether that be what the project's going to look like from Route 52, where we've designed enhanced berms with landscaping that will shield views, and for traffic, where we have designed our traffic circulation so all the trucks will go directly through the park out to I-84 and not be on Route 52. So being aware of those concerns was our primary concern. And I'll let the engineers go into detail about how we've kept those sensitivities in mind as we've gone through the design process, whether it be through stormwater or natural resources. But the point that we're trying to get across is with this project, the town will be able to experience all of the positive benefits from this development, whether it be all the increased jobs that we'll be able to create, increased taxes, developing a site that's been fallow for I don't know how many years now, without those negative aspects that can sometimes come from development. So I'll hand it over to our expert, Richard Burrow, who should also look familiar as he was the lead engineer on the Amazon warehouse. Richard?
Thanks, Ryan. So let me just walk you through a bit of the site. This nice looking picture.
Yep, gotcha.
So this is an overall aerial map. The site's 41 or so acres just between the Amazon project and Route 52. You can see quite clearly our best route for access, particularly with tractor trailers, is straight off 84 onto I Park Drive and then formerly Auditorium Drive, now Patriot Way, which gets you directly to the site. You know, you're familiar with the site. It's not the most visually appealing site at the moment, nothing going on there. So we're going to take the Sports Dome site, but we're not going to ignore, what's been going on around it. I mean, obviously we have road access in two locations off of 52, and we have the main access coming from the south on Patriot Way. There are some features on the Sports Dome site that we have to maintain. There's two stormwater basins, one in the southwest that's going to be kept exactly as is, one in the southeast we're going to modify slightly to better work with the new design. But really what's important, and then, in the northeast is also one we're going to keep. What's important though, and what we've heard feedback from the community, is how this site is going to look from Route 52. So I'll show you the proposed building and go into some detail on that. The other thing that's important as well is obviously our neighbour immediately to the east is John Jay High School, and I think our design is taking that into account. So let me again just walk you through it. This is the proposed building, 540,647 square feet. It's got 340 car parking spaces, basically 1/3 to the west, 2/3 to the east. So the east side is the front of the building, kind of similar to the Amazon building. So this would be the office, but there's potential in this building to have offices on both sides. So the aerial photograph and the perspective view rather that Ryan showed at the beginning of the nice looking office, there'll be two of those on the building in the northwest corner and southeast corner. So primary access for the site is coming off of 84 up Patriot Way. We've taken into account the location of our driveways and the new school drop-off and the changes with the implementation of the roundabout between Patriot Way and Route 52. So we're staying out of the way of those improvements to keep our traffic as separate as it reasonably can be. So we have two driveways in our southeast corner. That allows for counterclockwise truck circulation around the building, but also allows for a two-tenant scenario. Trucks can come along what is termed South Drive North. That's the road between our site and the Amazon facility. So I'll just switch up to actually I'll just finish on the circulation. So the new roundabout is going to exist on 52, where Patriot Way joins it, and then the school drop-off, I think, is about halfway down the front of our building. Our traffic isn't really going to mix with that, particularly the tractor trailer traffic, which we expect to come up Patriot Way. There's an existing intersection with 52, that's the signal that's got the bags on it that I don't think was ever turned on. We're going to remove that signal and essentially downgrade the intersection to be right in, right out only onto 52, so that will be for car traffic and emergency access only. So the visual of the site from 52, I think, is an important one, and this will give you some idea of the space that we've dedicated to that. I mean, obviously, it's no secret here. We have 124 loading spaces, so basically 62 docks on the north and south side of the building, 145 trailer spaces, basically distributed close to 50-50, slightly more on the north side. But we have a significant screening berm along Route 52. So your view from 52, well, right now you can see the Amazon building in the distance and a huge pile of gravel and some of the remnants of the sports dome construction. What you will see most of your journey along 52 is a landscape berm. As you get to the far east, when you're looking across the wet pond 2, we are going to have some screening, but you will see the top of the building. The building is 53 feet tall. That may seem like a tall building. It's roughly the same height as the Amazon building. The sports dome was 160 feet tall, I believe. Certainly a number of that nature, so 3 times higher than the building that is currently proposed. Just some other comparisons to the sports dome. We have 340 car parking spaces. The sports dome had over 800. So quite a less intense use at peak traffic times. The utilities that are required are largely in the area. We're basically going to extend water from the west campus to the east campus that already exists for Amazon, further extend that to this site. This site will have a fire tank, the same as the Amazon building, so it will have a state-of-the-art sprinkler system should it be needed for fire suppression. You can see we have several stormwater management basins. So as I mentioned, there's 3 on site already, 2 being modified, but we're adding 4 more basins in order to meet the current stormwater management regulations. Other key aspects, I do think it's really important that we understand that the traffic comes in and only car traffic is expected to interface with the school traffic. That's something we worked really, really closely with the town on. We have their design drawings, we spaced the driveways out, and it would be, if this was just a regular road, we'd love to just have a regular intersection, but that would create a conflict that we don't want and that the town doesn't want. So we worked really closely with the town to make that happen. I can show you some sections that we've drawn, maybe to help explain what you'll see from Route 52. So I'll move this one over here. So we did 3 sections, which you can see here labeled AA, BB, and CC. So section AA is on this westernmost corner. Section BB is through this number of buildings to the largest part of the berm, and then section CC is coming roughly from the roundabout across the wet pond. So you can see we've shown, you probably can't see it because it's quite far away, but what it does illustrate is that in section AA, where there is no berm, yes, you will see the office corner of the building. Section BB through the berm, really we don't expect to see any of the building, or perhaps more importantly, the trailer parking spaces. And then section CC, which is over the detention basin, you may see the very top edge of the trailer parking spaces at time of planting, but as the landscape design begins to grow in, it will also be obscured. So really, this is not going to be a particularly visible project from Route 52. You will just get a glimpse as you drive past the right in, right out driveway and the roundabout at Patriot Way. So that's basically the gist of this project. Similar to Ryan, we've had a significant number of interactions with the town. I'm not the architect, but I'll give you a brief. It's going to look like many modern industrial buildings with accent pillars, and there's bump outs along the front of the building, so it's not just a straight face. So you have these accents just making it more visually interesting and hopefully more visually appealing. And this is representative of what the intent is as we go on to develop the design. We've already applied to the Architectural Review Board, so we hope to appear in front of them in short order. I think Ryan knows the date. I don't have it to hand. Pardon me?
September 9th.
September 9th, there you go. So we're making our way through the process. I think that's about it in terms of my direct presentation, but I can certainly do my best to answer any questions you may have relating to where we are in the process and what our intent is.
So if my memory serves me correctly, that the Amazon site and this site, there was a buffer between them. Will this site bring closure to the Amazon site? Will there be any buffer between them? There was remember like a parking, or there was some type of land buffer between the two buildings or the two sites?
Yes, you have a great memory, and it's an important issue. There was an area on the Amazon site that was reserved for parking in favor of this site. So because that has been purchased by buying this site, then that's resolved. So that has gone away.
Okay.
So there's not like a dead space between the two
Right.
sites. The designs are immediately complementary.
Okay, so it'll close it together, and then there'll be this site and the Amazon site, and that's it?
Correct.
Okay,
For your reference, it's that blue area.
okay.
Is there going to be issues with water? I know at the last meeting that we had, there was some discussion of if a company bought the piece of property that the Global Foundries was unable to sell
I'll
that
answer
water.
that. This is a separate connection point. This has nothing to do with Global Foundries.
Okay,
And in fact, we're going to be working towards forming a water district here
okay.
for this in Amazon.
That's
it's a
what,
non-issue.
that's what I was getting
There's
at.
already a public hearing set
It's a
for the new
non-issue.
water district.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you show us the part of the building that's going to be exposed throughout 52? You said there's a small part over the water?
Right, so when you drive on 52, you're going to see this corner as you drive
That's eastbound, driving up.
eastbound of 52. And then if you're driving westbound looking over the basin, you're going to see the top of the building. And you're not going to see, well, I guess, no, you won't. You'll see the top of the building. So it really would just be the, here we go. So we estimate that we've got the top 8 to 10 feet of the building, so given that this is 50 feet, we'll see.
So that's the corner, that's going to be on that corner of the building?
That corner is going to be on 2 opposite corners. It'll be northwest and southeast. The other corner will have some accent, but not as much detail as this.
Can you just indicate,
So
back to your
two corners are the
elevation
same?
drawings? Just point to it on the elevation drawing?
No, let me show you. I'm just looking for that, but thank you for guiding me. So, on the elevation drawing, we would need the north elevation. So, I don't know, do you want to bring this over so you can see what we're doing?
Couldn't hurt.
It's basically this corner here, which you can see is very similar to this corner here, but not exactly the same.
Yeah,
So
but
it's going to look very similar to this. It's just that where this has those additional lower windows in both directions, because that's where there actually is the office, you just really get this direct corner panel, and then it will transition more quickly into dog positions and not so, and alleyway windows, because there's no office behind it.
so I want to make sure I'm understanding. So
Sure.
that part of the photo is going to be on the west part of that building closest to Route 852?
No.
That's the east side.
On the west side, yeah.
And then on the east side, it's on the opposite side of 52?
Their kitty corner?
What's going to be seen from Route 52 on the east corner?
You're going to see the corner of the building, Richard, why don't
This
you-
corner here, it's a simpler corner reveal.
Okay, so there is, it's not just a gray structure and a big block of concrete. There's going to be different
detail to it.
detail to it. Okay.
So Richard, the view over that pond on the corner is what then? Sorry. As you turned on to Patriot Way heading south, if you're traveling in either eastbound or westbound, you make a south onto Patriot Way, you first see the building, what are you going to see on the building?
So you're going to see a screen fence and landscaping, and you're going to see the upper portion of the building.
But you have that pond, you're going to have a berm on the backside of the pond, is that the plan?
I think a berm's a rather generous term for it, but there's certainly going to be mounding, and there's going to be planting on top of the mounding. So you see pond, mounding, planting. There is a screen fence on that corner just to help further obscure the trucks, because that's the message that we got from the town, that you guys want, seeing the top of the building, I perceive as okay. So you're going to see the top corner of the building. I mean, if you look directly down Patriot Way, you'll see the parking lot.
Right, but as you go south on Patriot,
Yep.
it still won't be mounded though, right? You'll run out of the mound and there'll just be a pond on the right and then the building, right? As you go.
Correct. You'll see, so as you go south on Patriot Way, you're going to see the
So you
screen.
go 100 yards up Patriot Way, what do you see?
You'll see the screen fence that's there to help screen the truck court,
Okay.
and then you'll see the front of the building.
And what's that building look like at that point?
That building will look like this elevation here, east elevation. So it's coming off the less, sorry, I'll put it here so you can see it. So it's coming off of the less detailed corner,
Yeah.
and then it comes down to the more detailed and intricate.
So the detail is on the south side of that profile, right?
Right.
So on the,
South,
right.
north.
So on the north, you're just going to see the corner of the building.
Okay.
So is there a particular reason that that's not like mirrored? There must be a reason why you put it where you put it.
Yeah.
I can-
Sure, if you like.
So for this size of the building and for what it is in the market, and where tenant demand is, chances are this is going to be a single-tenant building. We hope it is. But for this, different than what for Amazon, when we first came to you and proposed it, we knew that was going to be a single-tenant building for Amazon. Here, we're building this on a speculative basis, so we don't know who the tenant is going to be. What we're trying to do is come up with the functional aspects of the building that allows it not just to get built, but to get leased. That is what creates the proper rateable for a commercial building. In the context of the dimensions, we would see this potentially being subdivided into 2 tenants, but probably not 4. If we were going to do a larger building or in other markets, you might see what you're talking about, and some buildings have it, where you have potential office entrances at each of the corners, and they call it quadding, where you could actually quad the building and have 4 different tenants. Here, we don't think that that's conducive for this building, for the size, for the tenant demand. So we're thinking of it, and we've thought about the circulation and how that would work, so that if you were to subdivide it, where would the natural place be for the office for both sides of the building? Since most of your truck and a lot of your car access is going to be coming from, oh, thank you, nice catch. Is going to be coming from the highway along I Park Drive and this new auditorium drive. As you come up, we're trying to create a bit of a business park feel and unifying the West Campus from being 2 disparate uses to being more cohesive. So as you're coming up this Park Drive, you're going to see the front door of the Amazon building, and then you're going to see the front door of this building.
Amazon's kind of like across the front though, isn't it?
It is across the front. So your entrance on Amazon is located, the front door is here.
Could you do the same thing here, John? Instead of putting it just on one corner, could you split the difference and put it in the center of that side elevation? Could you put your entrance there?
We can look at that. I think.
Rather than trying to pick which corner is the best one,
Well,
if you put it in the middle and match Amazon, you kind of.
Well, what you can do on the corner, while you like to have it on the corner, you get for your tenant, you get more. You can create more window wall, if you will, and create more of an attractive corner element that gives the building a sense of arrival. That gives the building a sense of it. That is your front door. That is the office portion of the building. When you put it in the middle, you have less of that ability to articulate that. And so you prefer, our thinking is you're creating more of the presentation as you come up Auditorium Drive. As we talked about, this is meant to bring in your traffic and your cars so that they're coming right into this. Trucks will slip by here, not after the Patriot Way.
Just like a dummy facade on that other corner, just?
We can look at, we've done that before, and we can look at ways in which you can articulate it a little bit better. Unfortunately, for warehouse buildings, these aren't as architecturally rich as other types of buildings that can build. Where is the...
When you say you might have two tenants, how would you split the building? Is it long ways or short ways?
I'll get into, let me just answer, just focus on this one point here. What you can see what the architect looks to do within these buildings is not just to have a banal precast concrete slab wall. You're trying to, through painting, articulate, create a little bit of that sense of articulation architecturally through a polychrome, a little bit of a polychrome effect. And you can see that's painting where you create these portions, and you not only through paint, but in the articulation of the precast to break this up and to create a rhythm without it being too monotonous. And so that's how we're trying to handle at the corners along that side, and then along the loading court, you have clear story windows that not only bring light into the warehouse, but also natural light into the warehouse, but also creates a little bit of that articulation. The same is applied on this elevation as well. So we can look at aspects of it and see how we can, where it may not be an office entrance, and can give a little bit of better curb appeal, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, that's the corner that you're saying is going to be exposed to Route 52.
Well, I think, again, what we're saying, as was mentioned, we're taking great care to try to shield this building. We can't do it in its totality.
You want to shield the
right.
truck doors,
So
I get
I
that.
think this to us, with this screen wall, is to address that part of it. But, our sense is as you're driving by, this is not, there's no place to linger here. You're not going to sit and park your car and look at the building. It's a brief glimpse of the building. And so in some ways, we're saying that's not where to put the money to sort of accentuate certain aspects of it, which you want to do more towards the front. And we did consider, Scott, by putting it in the middle, and it just seemed like you didn't get as good of an appealing facade in that fashion. But we can look at that additionally.
And correct your point as far as driving on Route 52.
Yep.
If you're heading eastbound, you can see something like this.
From a distance. It'd be on the back corner.
So it's on.
No, he's saying eastbound.
As you're coming this way.
The westbound guy wants to see the same thing as the eastbound guy sees, so.
That's the point I think we're trying to make.
Yeah. So is there any way, even if it's a fake facade, something that looks like.
Yes, we can.
Other than a corner of a warehouse.
Well, something that just looks, yes, that it looks, rather plain. Yeah, we can look at ways to do that.
Or if you end up with two separate tenants, and their offices would be at two opposing ends of the building, depending, as Lori was asking, how it gets divided. So if it gets divided down the middle that way, then the two ends would have.
Well, let me.
That's why I was asking how you divide it.
Because of the way, for the size of this building, you're going to tend to split it. And if we were to split it, it would probably be something like 60-40. So it would be somewhere here. And to get the proper functional flow within the building, you wouldn't slice it this way. They're going to look for a cross-dock configuration.
So the bifurcation of the building doesn't prevent you from putting something in the center on the side? It's just the aesthetics that you're talking about?
And actually also how, when you punch out your office here, it's better, and then you have some dead space here and dead space here, it's better to concentrate in the corner so that the flow in this corner can be devoted just towards that pass-through activity that's happening within the
I don't
building.
think we care where the offices are, it's just a matter if you could,
The articulation of it, yes.
some window dressing of it.
Yes,
yeah.
we can look at that for sure.
A question to Richard on the profile. Where was it measured from, like on 52? From the center of 52, eastbound, 52, westbound, on those profiles? The originating point.
So I think it's from the center. Like, I mean, if you measure from the right-of-way, it's about 20 feet from the right. Actually, no, it's really from the closer lane, because there's a significant chunk of right-of-way beyond our lot line. So I think it's in the lane closest to the property.
So as you get further, like westbound, your profile line's gonna dip down.
Yep.
You'll see more of the building.
Further away you are,
I think we want to see a profile representing worst case.
Okay.
Not best case, because now it sounds like you got best case.
Well, I think we've got a reasonable case. I think it'll be very similar, but be happy to provide you the other one. Yeah. Yeah.
If it's the closest point, that would be best case.
Yeah. Well, it's not the lot line, it's the traveled way, but it's not the furthest traveled way, so we're happy to provide that.
And the height of the trees, what are you anticipating, the tree height in this scenario? Are these like after 20 years, or is this 5 years? Or is this your planting, or?
No, these are 5 years of growth.
Okay. For 5 years, you're anticipating them to be how tall?
They're going to be basically 20 feet tall.
So they're going in at what height?
Going in at probably 8 to 10, growing a couple feet a year.
Okay.
So you mentioned the building is fully sprinklered and it's 53 feet high. Have you been to the Fire Advisory Board as well as the ARB?
We have not been there. We have comments that we need to respond to, and we'll do as part of this process.
Okay.
And they need actually to be referred to the ARC tonight.
Okay. But not the FAB or not?
That automatically gets sent to the FAB as soon as the application comes in, yeah.
And I said ARB, I'm sorry, ARC.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay. I do it too.
One thing I just want to mention to the board, and Brenda and I have been talking, we talked about it at our last sit-down, was trying to sort out during the construction phase of the project what the truck routing might look like. So we don't have to dive too deep into it, but we are looking at how that might look, which might be different than what this looks like, just during construction.
But right now, you have no idea who the tenant would be, or tenants, right?
That's correct.
So this is just like put up for spec, and you're hoping to get someone, to track someone there that needs a warehouse. So you don't even know what kind of trucks, or how many people, or have no idea, right, how that'll go. I mean, you have ample parking or slots, I guess, but I'm assuming most of them would be tractor trailers coming in and out, right, for a giant warehouse.
Yeah, I mean, we have a general idea of what the tenant will look like and who we're marketing to.
Oh, okay, like, for example?
Excuse me, Ryan, could you use the microphone, please? Thank you.
I mean, specific
I mean,
company.
you don't know who the tenant is going to be right now, but you are marketing, you're aiming this at a certain sector, right?
Correct, yes. I mean, this is designed to be a warehouse distribution facility. So there's specific list of tenants who would utilize this type of facility that we would be marketing to.
So,
That have a need in this area particularly, for various reasons, including being able to drive trucks in one day to both the Boston areas and down to Philadelphia and Baltimore.
Just generally speaking, though, I'd assume there'd be a restriction on any hazardous storage of hazardous products or anything like that at this site.
I'll defer to Richard.
Or not?
Yeah, they'll be, what we're building is a commodity building, so it's not specialized, it's not geared towards anything that would be specialized probably wouldn't match up with this in terms of things like what happens within the facility. It has to comply with all code, and which would include environmental and hazardous material restrictions. And then to further on the question, I mean, this is a modern, what they call a modern logistics building. It used to be called warehouses. These are now called logistics buildings. And that carries or covers a large swath of the goods that could go into this building. It could be consumer products. It could be home improvement. It could be pharmaceuticals. It can be computer related. It could be, food grade. Won't be anything that requires temperature control. But it could be, cereal boxes and stuff like that. But so there are many different industries that could be attracted to this. But fairly universally, what it will be is just for the flow of goods that go from one point of delivery within a logistics network to another. If you look at, say, the Amazon building, if you will, what comes into that facility doesn't end up, at your doorstep, but what comes into that facility is already put into a brown box. Your order was fulfilled somewhere else. What's coming into that are just boxes that then get reorganized and then get put into the appropriate slot where then they get distributed downstream, and that's more of a mid-chain logistics facility. We would assume that this is going to be more accustomed to that, so there will not probably be any specialized origination or production aspect of it, by and large, and so it's more about the movement of goods from one location to the other.
So the product here, whatever's being stored, wouldn't be the last destination before final delivery, or it would be?
Yeah, no, this is not designed to be what they call a last mile facility. This would be more of a mid-mile facility. So there won't be, this is not a location also as a first mile, so there probably won't be a lot of shipping containers coming in to unload here and then move on to another facility. Could be, but this is not a location that's as proximate to the ports as other submarkets within the region. I mean, that would be a fine use, but it's probably not going to be that because of locationally, it's not one of its advantages. And then for last mile, it just doesn't have the dimensions, or internally it has a different orientation than what typically is in a last mile facility, which would be smaller building, more outdoor yard space for vans and parking and the flow of goods that then leave here and go, say, to everybody's front door. That won't be what this facility is.
But then will there also be spaces allotted for trailers that are there for X, days or whatever?
Well, what they do have for these type of facilities, I mean, you will have locations here and here. Those we call those excess trailer parking. It's not that the trucks that are there aren't sitting there for any other reason than waiting to then be brought to the dock to get loaded and then move on to the next location. Or it's a truck that comes in and unloads, and before it goes somewhere else, it may get parked over there. But there's nothing active happening within those trucking locations.
Thank you.
So is your intent to build first, then look for occupancy?
Well, I mean, we're prepared to move forward and build without a tenant. Ideally, I mean, we are actively marketing, or we just started a marketing campaign. If we can find somebody while we're in the approval phase, and that requires, or it's an opportunity where we can introduce that tenant to the town as they consider this to be a home for them, then we will absolutely look to do that. What we're trying to do is create a fully functional building that will attract a company to locate here. The problem that you have, I mean, right now, with that property looks like right now, is not that attractive. And so a tenant looks at it and says, I'm not so sure I want to commit to a project that seems so far away, and right now the condition of the building doesn't look all that attractive. What we're prepared to do is remove the uncertainty on timing by actually carrying forward with the project, starting construction, even finishing construction. Our goal would be not to build it and have an empty building, but to, when we're finished building it, actually have it occupied. But we're willing to take that market risk because our experience working with the town, being pro-business, you have the economic redevelopment overlay on this site. This was the intention. We're looking forward to fulfilling that intention through good, sound development and construction of a building where tenants will look to East Fishkill and say, that's a good place for us to locate. And we can be a corporate neighbor in this location. The building's right, the community is right, the access works. And then, as Ryan had mentioned, that's why we spent a lot of time. What's most important for a tenant is to be able to come into a place where they can get done what they would like to do operationally without being in conflict with the surrounding community. And that's what's kind of unique about this site, and was the reason why we first got interested in the West Campus when Amazon was, and what I think what attracted them is it had the ability for them to be able to locate, to be able to hire within the local community, to be able to be part of the business community without altering or having any negative impacts that might come from if trucks were using Route 52, if you were going by the John Jay School. Here you can kind of segregate the negative aspects of it while still benefiting from the positive aspects of it. And that's kind of what's unique about this site, which we originally recognized, and for the first phase, it's worked out beautifully, and we hope we'll be able to fulfill the whole redevelopment of the West Campus through the second phase.
Since you mentioned it, sorry.
Sorry, just to follow up on John's point, what would be attractive to the tenant and to the town, and being able to function operationally.
Just need you at the
Could you
mic.
use the mic again, please, Ryan? Thank you.
And to be able to function operationally sufficiently without bothering your neighbors is very well demonstrated in this slide here, which shows the site with the yellow star on it. And then the trucking route, which would go through the park, right, and go directly to exit 50 on I-84, which again would be attractive to the tenant and obviously the local community.
I understand you said you don't have an intended tenant yet, but you said you're going to have both office space and the warehousing space. Is it minimal office space just to support the, okay, do you have any estimate on like rough guess employees that might be tenanted here?
So we've been anticipating roughly a minimum of 100 jobs.
So if I may ask, what would the continuity be there? Let's say if you did have two tenants in the building and we did that divisory down the center, how would that work with the office space being on that one end of the building? What would the continuity be between the other tenant that's on the other side?
And that's where the benefit of this, what we call South Drive North, comes in. So where we have actually 2 points here and here of access. So if this were to be subdivided here, the first tenant would come in and utilize this curb cut, trucks would come around this way, cars would come into here. The second tenant would take this left here and circulate around to this side of the building. Their trucks would come in here, and the cars would filter in here. So it all kind of works in tandem.
But John, on the
thought you said it was
exterior,
kind
there's not going to be any kind of divider on the exterior separating the two users, right?
No.
The truck traffic would be able to go.
Well, it depends. If there may be some tenants that like to have their loading area secured, so would put a fence here and here, but that's why we have 4 points of access so that you could facilitate that even if you were to have a separation of that loading court.
You're going to have enough room to have somebody turn around in there?
Well, that's your trade-off. So what you would end up doing is, if, let's say there was a fence here, trucks come in, they need the room to turn, so you wouldn't be able to use those docks at the end. You would,
So there'd be an omission or a turn off of those, okay.
naturally imposed by
Yes.
just the turning radius of a truck. But again, I think what we're thinking of this would probably be a single-tenant building, and that's our intent. And with that, you would have, and you're all logistics experts now, is they do like to make a counterclockwise circulation pattern all the way around a building, literally because it's easier for a driver to pull in and look over his shoulder and pull into that corner when he's heading in this direction.
They could still come out the south. I just think that's something we got to point out to the fire advisory board, because if there is the potential to gate that in some fashion, emergency services, I'm sure, would want to have a gate with Knox box and all that.
That's very standard.
Right.
That's exactly how that works. So it's for emergency purposes, it can't be blocked, and it's got to be able to, a truck has to be able to get through. But when that happens, it's an emergency, and so you know that's happening. But somebody's not going to drive anything through otherwise.
It's just, I don't know if the plan's going to go to them, it's going to reveal that, so it's just got to be something that they can comment on.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, it goes hand in glove with that type of configuration. I mean, across the country.
Right.
This kind of tenant would have could have very different fire protection design criteria based on how they're storing material, type of material that's stored in the building. If you're going to start the building first, what design criteria are you going to start with?
Standard and straightforward, and if somebody has a extenuating circumstance that requires enhancement, we have to figure that out, and what that could look like. So in the building, if you have a rack that goes up and they can store in multiple levels in the rack, for certain types of classes of material, we have the sprinkler system that's hanging from the roof can handle that. And is designed with, heads that are geared towards that density of product. There are certain classes that will require enhancements where you may have to have in-rack sprinklers.
There's also design criteria for the orifice size of the heads at the roof, depending on the material you're storing.
I mean, it's something we have to adhere to in each and every case, and we have to satisfy it. Yes.
I'm just trying to figure out how you're building it before.
No, so what you do is you build what we call the base building aspects of it that are universal to everybody. And then if there are certain specifications that a tenant requires, you have to enhance it. And then if that enhancement requires you have to resubmit for review, you go back and you resubmit for review. Yeah.
But it would be the objection here would be to finish the building, obviously. You wouldn't be in limbo waiting for that tenant then to, make any changes. Like if you don't get a tenant and you're nearing the end of construction, the idea here is to finish it completely.
Finish it, yes.
Put it in as you're talking about, and then if you then get a tenant, let's say 2 months later, and have to come back to enhance it, you're ready, willing, and able to do that.
Yeah. So I think we've designed a building that probably handles 90% of the world of tenants that are out there.
Right.
If all of a sudden we're not leased and someone comes and they want to do a store type of material, open plastics or something that requires enhanced fire suppression, we've got to go in and get our engineers going, design it, submit it, and have it reviewed and approved before that certificate of occupancy can be obtained.
And on that note, John, there's no way 3 tenants could ever fit there. In your mind, you're set that it'd be a maximum of 2?
Could it? Yes. It's probably it would be unorthodox for this marketplace like this. If you were to have, so we're talking about 540,000 square feet. Let's say somebody took an initial 350,000 square feet, or 340,000 square feet, you've got 200,000 square feet left. If you were to divide that in 2, that the configuration of that, for that each 100,000 square foot, could happen, and it could be fine. But for the most part, that 100,000 square foot tenant's looking for a different type of building. It won't have as much docks as they would like for the amount of their space. It'll be too deep for, so if a 100,000 square foot would be, say, something like this and something like that, it could occur, but chances are that tenant's going to go want to look and take half of a 200,000 square foot building rather than 20% of a 540,000 square foot building. We'd be happy to do it. We're not saying you can't do it. If that's the way things worked, and all of a sudden, instantaneously, 3 tenants came along and somebody wanted 340,000 square feet, and we had 2 tenants that want each 100,000 square feet, and that gets us to full, and all 3 tenants are happy operating out of that configuration, there's nothing wrong with that at all.
The way you had it laid out, you got to come back, because now you're going to have another entrance somewhere. And
Exactly. But what we have done is, and to tie to that, we've tried to design for parking and for loading so that we don't frustrate that dialogue from happening. It's more burden for us to go and alter those aspects of it. So in some ways, and it goes back to your point, if this were a building, that was, say, 750,000 square feet, and it was located in we could fit 750,000 square feet, we would quad that building. We would have the potential to divide it into 4, because that size tenant for those dimensions of the building probably works, or it could work. And so we'd anticipate that could be the eventuality. But here, you end up with remnant spaces that are just too small for the dimensions and the functionality that those size tenants are typically looking for. But other markets, we do exactly that.
John, I have a question for you or for Richard. Just in your description of having more than one tenant, just looking at the configuration of how traffic flow is, it seems to be set up for the single tenant alternative, in that the driveway furthest to the north is set up so that you're going to exit that and only proceed to the south. So, if you do divide it, is that going to require you to then sort of reconfigure that entrance?
No, we wouldn't.
How about the employees, though?
Well, again, if I understand correctly, you're saying if we do subdivide this, you're saying, no, as I mentioned before, we're seeing this, if it's subdivided, this is tenant 1, tenant A, tenant B. Tenant A has circulation for cars, no different than if it was a single tenant, so that's...
Well, I'm talking more about the access out onto Patriot Way.
Out onto Patriot Way, so this tenant, with one of the other board members pointed out, you have a little problem where they have to turn around, so they're going to come in this direction, and they're going to go right back out this direction, and then right to the highway. So you wouldn't change that at all.
People on the other side are going to make a left on South.
They're going to come here, left on South Drive, and either pull into here, turn around, come back, and go out, or they're going to come back up here, come in here, turn around, come back, and go out.
So it'll have to be signage, may have to be adjusted depending on 1 or 2 users.
Correct.
Well,
yes.
just in that, I guess the only, I see the movement that's not accommodated is the employee that wants to head westbound on 52.
Yes, but we, in working with the town, we said we're going to, as Richard said, de-emphasize this as a way in which that signal has never been on. It's not going. We're not looking to create a lot of traffic on 52. So if somebody is coming from the west, their options are, the natural options are, they're going to pull in here, come into the office area, work all day. Then when they leave, if they want to head back, the chances are they're going to come back here up to the roundabout, and then.
Well, but what I'm getting at is if you segment the tenancy, you don't have that same option. I mean, the 2 intersections that connect to Patriot Way, one of them is a full movement intersection, right? Which could, in the scenario that you just painted,
Here, you're saying.
Well, that one is not full movement. That one only has lefts in and rights in and out. it does not have a left out, the way it's configured.
Richard, I think, well, can you explain that? Because I thought we do have that.
I see what he's saying now.
State Drive North?
Just,
Or this one here?
well,
So,
you can take them one at a time and go through them.
Take the north entrance, the north.
So someone comes down Patriot Way, they come in here, they want to get back to the roundabout. How is that car coming out?
Show me that plan again.
Well, it just shows you right here, this is a right out.
Just a right out.
At the moment, it's only showing right out because that's anticipated that it would be for trucks and having all these movements available. You know, if it does become the two-tenant, then we would probably look to modify to make a car-only northbound on Patriot Way. We could do that sooner. But it's certainly...
I think then again, the one to the south would have to be sort of set up to make sure that the trucks, again, go towards 84.
Yep.
We're like splitter islands or something.
Yeah. And some signing, right.
Yeah, signage would help, but the islands would be good as well.
That's the intent. The intent is to facilitate that. So if there's tweaks you have to do to that.
Yeah, okay. I think we got to make sure there's, just adequate width and everything there that it could be configured either way, I guess.
And that only becomes a problem if you have to gate.
If you have the gate in between.
Gate the
right.
exterior and cut off the two users.
Yep.
I just had a question I'd like to bring. I brought it up at our last meeting, whether or not there's going to be a concrete plant like there was for Amazon. And if so, where would you place it? Because you just don't have as much space as you used to have on the Amazon site. And I know we ran into some issues not being able to construct a pond on the stormwater features because the concrete plant was sitting there. So you may not have an answer tonight, but you got to give consideration to that if you intend to put a batch plant on site.
Sure, we'll give that.
Okay, are there other questions or comments for the applicant?
Yeah, I prepared a review letter. I won't read the whole thing tonight because it's Monday. But some of the bigger things I was looking at were, verify if you need to have health department review and approval for the water and sewer, the stormwater management maintenance agreement. Some of those things may be long lead time items, so I would urge the applicant to investigate those sooner rather than later. I'm looking for a detailed construction phasing plan, just showing how the site's going to be built out. There's a couple monitoring wells in the northwest corner of the property that look like they're going to be impacted by some of the grading. And a number of stormwater-related comments, utility comments. Some of the pipes look fairly deep. Just want to make sure they're going to withstand the overburden. Retaining walls, we're going to need some more information on those. Earthwork, we're going to want to take a look at how much earth is being moved on this. The Alta survey that they provided references there's current earth moving work on the site. So we're going to want to take a look and see exactly how the claimed balance, net, cut, and fill was arrived at. So we may need to get some additional mapping or some information from the applicant's engineer on how that was determined. Based upon the cut fill, it may require a special permit under a section of the town code if there's excessive net export. Various comments regarding slope stabilization. All the stormwater management areas need to have vehicular access to all the control structures. Security, safety fencing should be installed around all of them. I didn't happen to see that on the plans, but it was mentioned here tonight. Various comments regarding details. And regarding stormwater, we're going to want to take a look and see what the net effect of the stormwater is on the site, because we have two main off-site discharge points, one to the southwest and one off to the northeast. I believe it's to the southwest, there's a confluence of several streams in the area. I may have some information. I wasn't able to obtain it in my office today regarding the analysis that was done there. We just want to make sure that when the peak from this site leaves, it's not coinciding with another peak that's happening there. We just want to make sure that off-site there's not going to be an impact. And other things, looking for written authorization from the town in order to exceed that 5-acre limit of concurrent disturbance based upon the scope of this. And they'll also, of course, they'll need to go through all the procedures for filling out the NOI, getting coverage under the general permit for stormwater discharge. But that's, they still have to provide the H&H calculations to demonstrate that they're meeting all DEC requirements. And of course, they're gonna need to get OPRHP sign off, and they're gonna need to do that to get sign off under seeker. And if they have any additional questions, I'm available to discuss these, or we can do a Teams meeting, or whatever makes it.
If you can quantify the fill, you may want to do that prior to advertising, because you would need to advertise for the special permit for the excavation and fill if it's over a certain amount. So you should probably try to clarify that number before you do your public hearing notices.
Sure, so we've been working on the fill since we've done the design that was submitted, and we don't plan any export, so we do not believe we need that permit. To the other various points in the letter, there is quite a lot of points in the letter. This is stuff that we're continuing to develop, and we'll really, most of the engineering behind it is done. It's really a matter of presenting that for review. And this is all consistent with the same approvals and level of detail that we provided for the Amazon project. So just getting it in a format that can be presented so that it can be correctly reviewed. Appreciate the proactive approach from Christian and his team. And we'll hope to serve them up easily understood documents that allow us to go through the process in an efficient manner.
Yeah, I think well, hopefully, we're considered to be a known quantity, if you will, and that from the standpoint of being a thorough and responsible developer, hopefully we've earned a little bit of that reputation just in our performance on the first phase. Our approach for this phase is similar to that. Tonight, our goal was to just introduce the project. We appreciate all the comments that have already been accumulated for us to address. Our intent is to address them all. I think one of the benefits is you've got a site that had already been, was developed back in the time of IBM. There was an attempt to redevelop with the sports dome that did not get brought to a final conclusion. We're hopefully going to be the last stop for this to actually get done to completion, and we look forward to working with the town. We've had a great relationship thus far. We know that our responsibility to continue that great relationship is to perform in a way that provides all the answers that for any questions that are posed, and we look forward to working with you all. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? If not, then we do know that the applicant is scheduled to go before the ARC, but we do want to formally refer them to the ARC. So could I have a motion to refer Hudson Valley Logistics Center to the ARC?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and then, as alluded to earlier, we want to schedule a public hearing with the town board. We for the site plan and the town board for a special permit. That special public hearing will take place on September 22nd at 6 p.m. May I have a motion to schedule that?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, is there any other business to be brought before the planning board tonight? If not, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you very much.
Thank you.